YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today we are working on the second day of my 100 days of Flask, a blind developer's journey. And today we want to cover web forms. Forms are very important in Flask. We need to use forms to accept login, to accept registration, and to accept all sorts of data from the user. Before we write our form or forms, we need to make sure that we have a secret key. Flask forms, they need a secret key, and that is required because you have to prevent against what's called cross-site request forgery malware. The form requires us to have that secret key. Without it, the form will not work. So we need to create that first. Second, after we create the secret key, we need to make sure that secret key is in our environment keys. It is not stored in the application. It is never stored in GitHub or shared with anybody, because that's how you make sure that your app is not hacked. So make sure that you store the secret key in the environment keys, and I will show you how to do that. So the first thing that we have to do after you activate your virtual environment, we have to install the Flask WTF. And the way you do that is you say pip3 install Flask WTF. I already did. The requirement is already met. Second thing, we need to generate the secret key. Go to the Python shell, import secrets token hex. After this, you can choose either 16 characters or 32 or 64. The longer the number is, the better. So we'll say 32. So you copy this, you exit the shell, and in order to save the secret key into your environment, what you would do for Mac, I go to my home folder. I'm using C shell. I already set here before the tutorial, but what you would do is, in your case, you say export secret key, and you would paste the secret key that we generated here. And in order to save in Nano, I'm using Nano. If you are using Vim or other editors, you use the special commands for them. In Mac, Control X to exit. And here it asks you to save what you did. For me, in my case, I don't want to save it because I already have the secret key saved. In your case, you would type Y and it will exit. But for me, I don't want to save it. But for you, you press down Control plus X. It asks you whether you want to save it. You type Y, the letter Y, and it will save it for you. Then in your app.py, the top of the file, what you would do is you will import the OS module, the app config, and we'll say secret key OS environment get. We will get the secret key here. And this will take care of setting up the secret key. Then what you would do is you would create a new file called forms. Oh, it's already there. We will just write it again. The first thing that you would write is from Flask WTF import Flask form. You would import the fields. We need a string field, we need a password for the login, and we also need a Boolean field for the remember me field, so that the user can be remembered, when they log in, so that when they go in a different page or they close the browser and they come back, the user will be stored in the cookie, right? And it will be remembered, right? You will say WT forms, import string field, password field, Boolean field, and lastly submit field. You also need a validator, WT forms validator. We need data required. The class we need is login form, and we will inherit from Flask form. You need a username, validators. The only validator that we need now is data required. We need password field, password validator, data required, remember me, boolean field, remember me. We don't need a data required here. Submit field, login. So that would be it for the forms. Here we need to import from forms. You have to import the login form, and after the index in app.py, we will create the route. The route would be login. We also need to accept a post request. Methods. We need a get a request, that is to see the page itself, and we need a post request because we want to send the data from the browser to the backend. In our case, it will not go anywhere, but in future videos, we will accept the user information and we will test against that with our database that we create, in the future. So div login, and we'll say form login form, and we say if form validate on submit. So if the form is submitted, what do we want to do? Since we don't have a database, what we could do is we could flash the information that the user entered, so that the user knows the information the data is accepted or went through. One way we can do that, here at the top of the file, Flask, import Flask, that line, we will have flash. We will also have redirect. We will also have URL4, and URL4 is used to redirect links whenever there is a successful login or logout, or anytime that you want to send the user or the entity from page to page, you use a URL4. And flash is just a temporary message that shows at the top of the page, notifies the user what happened. In our login function, what we would do is we'll say flash. We'll use f-string here, and we'll say login user, say form username data, and you say remember me, say form remember me data. And after the flash message, we want to redirect the user, just like regular login. We're gonna redirect the user to the index. Index meaning this function, which is essentially our home page, right? If the user successfully enters a username and a password, even though we don't actually test it, if it is in the database, because we don't have a database, this will simulate a successful login. Then we'll say return render template, and we will say login HTML, title login, and here form. It will pass form and form right here, and we will go to the base HTML, all the other pages inherit from, and here we want to show the the messages, the flashed messages that the user gets, right? Regardless of where the page is. So we'll say if get flashed messages, if there is a flash message, we will say for message in get flashed messages, and we're gonna say here message and style here adding pixels. Also here we will write a link that point to the login, and now we can use our URL for, right? You can say URL for login. Instead of saying / about, you can say about. And here we say URL for index. And now we have to write the login page. We inherit from the base, and we also need to add content here and block. And we write here the h1 login, and then we create form. Action would be empty, method would be post, and no validate. We also add here the secret key, form hidden tag, and div form username label, form username, and size would be 25. So this would be the username label, and the field here would be password. We also need remember me here. Size doesn't make any sense here, and here also I don't think we need size here. And lastly here we need a way to submit, say form. Also we need to make sure that the errors show up when the user either skips the username or skips the password. The error shows up here, form username, and we essentially copy this and we change here password, and I think we are good. Don't need to check remember me, because remember me is optional. It's a binary thing. Either the person wants to be remembered, the username remembered, or they don't want to. So we don't need to check the remember me. And also another thing I will tell you, if you are annoyed by my magnification, zooming in and out, don't worry. I will put everything in my GitHub account. I already put the day 0 and day 1, and this episode would be day 2. So the source code would always be in the description below. So after we completed the login, let's test the program. We will say export Flask app py export, run it in a development environment. And the reason we want to run it in a development environment is because I don't want to shut down the Flask server every time I want to update something. So we follow this, and here you can see the login shows up here. Once we click it here, it says internal error. So probably we mess up something. The error was here. I left out the in. You have to write in. You have to say for error in form password errors. When you refresh and you add the in, you get the form. So you don't add anything, and you type nothing. It tells you that you need to fill out. Notice that remember me is optional. It doesn't generate any errors. Also need to add some color. You need to add some color to the error, right? That makes sense. We say margin left 20 pixels. Say color red, and the same thing for the password errors. margin left, color red. So now when we reload the form and we just submit it. I don't want to submit with credentials. I want to submit it empty. Let's test with something. We say Mike and we say book for the password. And I want to be remembered. As you can see here it's pulling from the base template. Logged in user, Mike, remember me, true. And also it did. After we logged in successfully in this fake data, it directed us to index the page. This is the index. Books are the index. Books live in the index route here. Here are the books. After you successfully log in, it will redirect you to index. And this code is responsible here. Here, redirect URL for index. This is what happens when you successfully log in. But now only have fake data, right? And also the flashed message goes away. If we refresh the page, it went away. A flashed message is just a flash. It doesn't stay. It's not like something that you save in the cookie or in the save it database. It's just temporary thing. In today's episode, we learned how to create a login form. We created a secret key. We saved it in the environment. We created the template for the login as well, and we accepted the form. So tomorrow we will continue building our application. Tomorrow we will create the database that the user, whatever the user enters, will be saved in the database, and we will create a register form so that there will be actual users that will be saved in the database, and we will create more and more features for the application. I hope you are finding this series helpful. If you have any questions, please ask. If you want the source code, just like I said, it will be in the description below to follow along. It will be in my GitHub account. And if you find this helpful, please subscribe, please follow, please give this video a like. Thank you, and I will see you next time.